I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends Podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends Podcast. Hey, Steve. We're going to talk today about the next right action. That is one of those topics that you hear in AA meetings all the time. What the hell does that mean, and how do you take the next right action? You also told me it was some of your week this week. Maybe
good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
It's always, that's always a good topic in meetings. And it's always a good topic for me because, just like everybody else, I get frustrated in life and I get, resentments. Sometimes they're big and sometimes they're minor. And it's in that moment of confusion. It's in that moment of really I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling at the time that I need to take a step back and ask myself what the next right thing is. Because in the past, my go-to has been to act badly in those times, right? And I still can. Trust me, I'm far from perfect in that. But the program has taught me that I need to stop when I can and sort of think about it. And I had that experience. As a matter of fact, I shared about this. I shared about an event Friday night at my men's meeting on that exact topic. So when you brought it up, I'm like, yeah, that's always a good topic. It's always a good topic for me. And I'll just touch base on that. Like I have a project. I have to replace what they call a kick heater, which is a heater that goes underneath your cabinets, and it'll warm like a space, usually like in the kitchen. And we had one for years, and they're kind of odd, but it's the only heat source we have in our kitchen. So if that's not working, the heat's got to come from other rooms, which makes it harder to keep that warm and comfortable. So finally, this thing's probably 50 years old or maybe 40 years old. And finally I decided it was time to replace it, and I'm working on it. And I could just call somebody up to replace it. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I have called up people and they've said, oh yeah, I'll send, like, people don't want to do this job, right? It's a really, really tough job. And I don't mind doing some of that work. So anyway, I was working on some of that. I have a plumber who I called over. Luckily, he works with me a lot of stuff. I'm like, listen, I'll do all the grunt work. I just need your plumbing skills, right? Like, I'll do a lot of the stuff that we need to do. So we talked about the project. He agreed to do it with me, and I was working on that, and I had some electrical work to do on it, so I'm fighting with that, and none of that's fun. And I was really pissed off. I was like irritated. It was taking me longer. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just call and pay an electrician? I mean, it's just rewiring some socket. I mean, nothing big. And at the end of the day, I was really tired. My wife wasn't feeling well. And the dishwasher needed to be emptied. It's really small, right?
Yeah.
It needed to be emptied. And I'm like, I worked all day on this project, and I sat there at the end of the day, and it still needed to be emptied. I'm like, I'm not unloading that dishwasher. No way. I'm not. Like, I'm pissed off. I'm irritated. I'm tired. I'm not touching it. And then I had something to eat, right? We also talk about HALT, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, which when you get in those modes, you're at risk. And so I had something to eat. And before I went to my meeting, I unloaded the dishwasher and put it on because I was ready to do it. And it's like, and that's what it is. Like, that's a simple thing. But here's what I shared about on my Friday meeting was that if I hadn't done that, that resentment would have carried through with me, right? It would have still been sitting there. But by doing the next right thing, which was, hey, my wife wasn't feeling good, unloading my dishwasher takes me 5 minutes, right? I literally, like, it's a 5-minute job. It's like doing that next right thing for me that day just took away all that negative energy. I was still tired. I was still, not happy about the job. This whole thing I was working on. But that was gone. And then it wasn't going to interfere with my relationship with my wife any longer, so that's a little, view as to, for me, what that means. It means a lot of obviously it means a lot of other things, but that's sort of like a snapshot of how that works in my life.
My wife has a tendency to only ask yes or no questions. for everything. The only way she communicates is, did you do this? Did you do that? Have I told you this story? And because I coach this at work, I teach other people how to coach their people. Listening to calls where people on the phone only ask yes or no questions drives me insane. So it carries over. And there are times, and I was doing it yesterday, I was being a jerk by really only answering yes or no, or I know what she's getting at. I would say me doing the next right thing there was the fact that I didn't snap.
Yeah.
Because I don't like it when she does that, and yet I kept it to myself. I could have done better. I wasn't perfect, but the next right thing for me was biting my tongue.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. There's lots of things that this falls into the category. Listen, if you're in a relationship, if you're married, or if you have a partner, or whatever it might be, I mean, those are the people that can usually push your buttons, right? They know which buttons to push, and it's the same thing with me. So I always have to be on guard in those things, and it's really important that I just take a moment and the beauty of this program is like I knew I was frustrated and tired. Before, I would know that and I wouldn't I knew I would. So I had to do some stuff around that. And here's the thing, all of this was my own doing, right? I mean, I chose to do it. I'm working. And again, this is the other thing. I take responsibility for these things now. I chose to work on this project. I actually had it together, and I have a tendency to do this. I'm tired of this. I'm just going to put these circuits back together. And then I realized, I don't like that. I don't, and this is another thing. And I went and I took it apart and I redid it the way I wanted to do it. At the moment I was tired and frustrated, and I did a crap job on it. And then I went back the next day and I actually got some different parts and supplies, and I redid the whole thing. And so now I'm like, okay, that's better. I like that. It's better. But doing the next right thing is a lot of other things too. I'll tell you another story about me. Here's the perfect example. And I don't want to dominate this, but years ago, my sister, who has passed, she passed from lung cancer. And when she got diagnosed, she started going, I may have told the story before. She started going down to Yale, and I helped her a lot. She needed a lot of help. She was a single mom. She didn't have a lot of support, so I helped her a lot. And after she had surgery to remove 2 lobes of her lungs, 2 out of 5, I guess, right? One has 2 and one has 3. So we offered her to come to our house to convalesce after her surgery, right? And she accepted, and she went down there and blah, blah, blah. I picked her up from Yale, brought her up here. She came in, we settled her in. My wife has retired. She's a nurse. My wife agreed to do it. She didn't want to, but she agreed to. After one night, my sister looks at me and says, I'm going to go home tomorrow. So this was a Monday night. I picked her up, and she's like, I'm going to go home tomorrow. I'm like, oh, do you need something? I'll go down and get it for you, right? She lived in Waterbury. I live in Manchester, about a 40-minute drive. She goes, no, I'm going home to stay. Now, we had worked on this, my wife and I, right? We had worked out this whole thing. We were going to let her stay there for a week or so. And she's like, I don't like it here. Right? I was freaking livid. You ungrateful bitch. Right? I was livid. How could you? So packed up her stuff, brought her home. You may have been at that meeting. I don't even remember.
I do remember this story.
Right. I went to the Forbes Street meeting, and I was pissed off. And our buddy Edson, who we talk about here, Edson is always do the next right thing type of guy. And I just spilled my guts to him. And Edson looks at me and says, what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, what do you mean you're going to do tomorrow? He goes, I tell you what you're going to do tomorrow. You're going to pick up the phone, and you're going to call your sister and ask her how she's doing and if she needs any help. I'm like, screw you. I am not talking to that bitch, right? This whole thing. I left that meeting no, I'm not doing that. And as I'm driving home, I'm like, son of a bitch, he's right. That's the next right thing. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about. The next right thing was for me to call my sister, who I love, but I was a little pissed off at, who was just recovering from surgery, to say, hey, how you doing? How you getting by? Can I be of help to you? right? Even though, so that's a perfect example of what that means in my life, and how the program and me sharing my stuff with another alcoholic can point me in the right direction, right? I still had to take action. I still had to pick up the phone. I still had to make the phone call. But the solution was put right there for me. And it was up to me to take action and make it right. And as soon as I did that, actually, as soon as I realized I had to do that and I was going to make that call, again, all that frustration, all that resentment was gone. Not all of it. I shouldn't say all of it, because it still irks me a little bit. But, and she's been dead 3 years. So, anyway, so that's another example of what that means.
You also talked about another right thing to do, which is go to a meeting.
Yeah.
If you're in that place where you're going to make a bad decision, if you live in the Northeast, places like Connecticut, there are meetings all the time. Yeah. You can make an excuse by saying, I can't get to a meeting. There's probably another meeting within another couple hours, depending on where you are. And if you can't, another right thing to do is call somebody. Call somebody you know that you trust who's sober and ask, what should I do? If you have to go, walk away. One of the things that I have been successful with is going for a walk. I can't remember the last time I've gotten that fired up that I had to go for a walk, but I've done that before. I've gotten up, I got to go for a walk. I got to let it out that way, or going to the gym. I must be doing the next right thing, because now I'm thinking about it. I really haven't been in that place in quite a while where I've exploded and I can just blow up.
Yeah, that tells you that you're managing it right? That tells you that, again, one of the other topics we've talked about here is emotional sobriety, that we've learned through our program and through other things how to manage emotional sobriety, right? How do we keep those emotions? I used to talk about it. Again, I didn't realize this stuff. I guess maybe I did realize it somewhat, but my emotions were roller coasters, right? Just like you blew it. That was the same thing with me, right? Like, it would be, I wasn't on a steady. There wasn't like this nice glass lake kind of stuff. It was a roller coaster, like heavy emotions and it's not manic depressive stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the same thing, like putting up with a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden, blowing up. And I realized that I same thing with me. Like, pretty much I manage all that stuff, and I too notice that if I'm not blowing up, if I'm not having those feelings, then actually I'm doing a pretty good job of managing some of that stuff.
The next right thing for me on Friday night was not going out for ice cream. I was absolutely fiending for sugar, and it took me a lot. I am really trying to eat well. And it took everything in my power. I did reach out to somebody and said, I'm feeling this way. And I just kind of muscled through it. Last night I did, but it was a special occasion. We went out with the family, and I'm saving it for then. I will tell you, every time I go out for ice cream and I get on the scale the next day, I gain a pound and a half.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you do that.
Yep. I think it is the salt in the ice cream. Yeah. I have a feeling it is something in there that I can't imagine just eating ice cream. All of a sudden, I've gained a pound and a half of fat. I think we're holding water.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to freak out, because we had a blizzard earlier in the week, and the same thing happened. I gained a pound. Then a couple days after that, of continuing to do the things I'm doing, boom, I had lost more than what I had gained.
Right.
But it was tough, because I got out of one 10-pound span into another, and it went back up. But a couple of things I did here. I got on the scale, because I've committed. I'm going to get on the scale every day. I'm going to measure my weight that way. And I didn't want to today, because I'm like, I don't want to see what it is. But if I start that habit,
right, I
won't get on the scale. And when I don't get on the scale, then I slip with my food. And it keeps me in check. And I'm trying to be okay. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And this is going to be in waves. It's not going to be all the way down. You're going to go up. You're going to go down. You're going to go up. You may go up a bit, and then you come back down. And what is the trend over time? But I did those things, and I stayed true to, it's okay for us to go out somewhere for ice cream when it's good quality and we're doing it as a family. And then I won't do it again. but the stuff's hard.
It is hard. Listen, and I just want to share this, not because it's not an OA meeting. We're not talking about that, although we probably both could use OA stuff.
Yep.
Because I started doing the same thing, and I have a tendency that when my weight fluctuates way too much, and I won't get into that too much, but it's always been a struggle for me. And I too have been doing some hiking and been getting my ass kicked on my hikes, and I'm realized I'm just too heavy, right? So I need to start doing it. So I've started doing the same thing, and I have a tendency to do the same thing. Is when I go bad, I stop weighing myself. I don't get on the scale, and then which allows me to get more out of hand, right? Yep. So anyway, I had the same exact experience this morning. Like, I didn't eat that much. Like I didn't go for ice cream last night. I didn't eat that much, but I just felt like I feel different. And when I got on the scale yesterday morning, I had dropped like a half a pound, and from the day before, and I said, it's one of those things that I wasn't sure. And I got on today, and I had gone up like 3/4 of a pound, right? And again, I got to do that same thing. I got to go like that. Doesn't mean I starve myself today, right?
Right.
And I agree. Like, you need to eat 3,200 calories, right? The math is 3,200 calories to gain a pound, or 3,200 calories to lose a pound, right? Less. So the chance you're not going to eat an extra 3,200 calories to gain a pound. So it's just that scale. But the scale is a nasty thing. It goes up and down. But you're right. It's a trend. It's like the stock market, where the stock market, you want to go up over a trend. It doesn't mean it goes up every day. And that's the same thing. But that is the next right thing, to be able to do something, to be able to make some changes in our life, in other areas that maybe we struggle with, right? And again, this is how we drag this program, or maybe we don't drag the program. Maybe the program drags us.
That's what I was just going to interrupt to say. It's the program that drags us.
Right. Maybe the program drags us into these habits, right? Because we have a solution now. We have a solution for all of our problems. That's why OA is out there. Now, listen, I have OA books in my bookcase. I've said this before. I've been on that. I touched that program because I thought maybe it could be helpful. I didn't love the program, and I only have so many 12-step recovery times in me. But like I said, I certainly belong in that, just like I belong in AA. But so the program gives us this. It gives us a roadmap. It gives us the directions on how we make ourselves better in all aspects of our lives. And then it's up to us to use it. Like, listen, if you have a roadmap, and in the old days, or if you have GPS on your phone and you decide not to use it, well, that's on you. If you get lost, or if it takes you longer to get somewhere. So that's this whole point about this program and the dynamics of it, of how much it helps in all aspects of our life.
That's the dirty secret of the program, is it's set up so that you can stop drinking. And I think it subtly says throughout the book there, you have to take these steps and you have to apply these behaviors in all your life, because it's those things you do in your life that are the things that keep you sober. Right. It's not the put down the drink that keeps you sober. It's fix this and that in your life. Stop yelling at your wife. Stop being a prick at work. Those are the things that build up, and then your release is a drink. So if you apply it to every part of your life, even when it seems simple, those are the things that are going to lessen the pressure, so you never get to the point where you want to drink. I'm just realizing now that maybe me not having outbursts has to do with some of my workout planning. Yeah. Part of it is I get my ass out of bed every morning at 6 a.m. and I get to the gym. And when I started doing this, there were 3 days a week I was going. And now it's pretty much 6 or 7 days that I get my ass out of bed. And at least during the week, I go and get some cardio exercise. And then I go with my son and we do both weights and cardio. So on the weekend, I have more time to do longer workouts.
Right.
But my other part is, on top of that, I get 10,000 steps, which is a lot harder than you think. You can't just get that going to the gym for 45 minutes. You got to find it elsewhere. So during certain times during the day, I get up and I go for a walk and I get to 10,000 steps. And lo and behold, your stress level goes down. That you can get out there, you can work through your feelings. Even when you don't have them, it doesn't build up.
I think that for most of us who are in recovery, most of us who have needed some type of help and support to stop drinking, stop using drugs, maybe stop over whatever your addiction might be, can go back, if we do this, if we do our programs correctly, go back and look at why we behaved that way, why we relied on that addiction, whatever it might have been. And I think most of us will find it's because of that frustration. It's because of that buildup of stress. It's because we didn't have this outlet. Most of us will find some reason, right? You just don't pick up a drink and start drinking because everything's like, there's usually an underlying connection as for all that kind of stuff. So when you put in programs, like you said, I used to love to do that. There was a gym. I belonged to a gym. I worked up in Windsor. There was a gym. Literally, I could walk to the gym. That's how close it was to my work. And I used to do the same thing you did. I used to get up 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd drive to the gym. I'd be there by like 5:30, 5:45. I'd get a workout in. I'd take a shower at the gym, and then I'd go to my office. And it was the same thing with me. Most of my workout at that time was probably mostly cardio. I used to love to run, and I'd get on the treadmill. I would do some light weights and stuff like that, and then I would get on the treadmill and maybe run for 30, 45 minutes, take a shower, head to work. I loved it, right? Just like it becomes an AA community. If you go to the gym at 5:30 every morning, you're going to see the same people. You're going to have a community there because not everybody's getting up at 5:30 to go to the gym. You're going to have this community of people. You're going to get to know them. I started to get to know some of these people. We'd be able to talk to them, right? So it's a great way to start the day. And I never felt better. And it's the same thing. After a really stressful day at work, a lot of times, I'd go right to that gym. Right, I'd go right to that gym and relieve some of that stress. So, or even lunchtime. Yeah. So there's lots of aspects we can do. There's lots of different things we can do, and it's all about trying to figure out like how am I going to do the least amount of harm to people, right? By managing some of the things we're talking about.
I never talk to anybody at the gym. I see the same people. I have no idea how to talk to these people. I have no idea how to start a conversation. I wish I did.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's an impossible task for me.
Is it for you? Not for me. Like I said, my wife will ask me, like, who are you talking to? I'm like, oh, I don't know, just talking to somebody, right? Whoever it might be. But anyway, so all of that things, and again, it's really, for some of us, it's a challenge. And again, just like you were saying, it's less of a challenge for me to do the right thing. It's less of a challenge for me. I typically don't blow up over stuff anymore. Like I said, this project was a challenge. It's not going. Even after the plumber came over, we had this plan of how I thought it might work best. As I investigated that plan, I now realize that's not going to work, which makes the job a lot harder, which I haven't told my plumber yet. But it is what it is at this point. I'm committed to doing it. And, now that I have some of that behind me, it's like, okay, I can relax a little bit. But one of my big things is like I just have what I feel is, and I really need to manage it, and maybe other people feel this way. That's why I mention it. I have what seems to be a never-ending list of chores to do. Right?
Me too.
And and this is one. I have a buddy, John, who used to go to Friday night, and we both have a pool. We used to laugh at each other because we'd have what these called Cadillac problems. Oh, I gotta clean my in-ground heated pool again this weekend. Oh, poor me. Well, I've got some work to do on my pool, and I got some rust. I got some stuff to do, and I just pulled the cover off. My buddy Mike came over and helped me, and I look out there, and all I see in this pool is work, right? And I have to be careful with that. So I have to go out there. I have to attack this job. I have to do some work on this pool because our pool is just my wife and I. We don't use it as much as we used to. And it's those type of, for me, it's those type of daily frustrations where I feel like I've got this never-ending, taskmaster of chores that I need to do around my house. That just can frustrate the hell out of me and put me in a really bad position. And just one final note, this is one of the things that has helped me is I've is I've realized that, and one of the things I love to do, I've talked about, I love to go hiking with our buddy John and David, and so I make sure nowadays, like we didn't hike this weekend, but I'll make sure I hike next weekend, because that'll give me some relief, just like going to the gym. It'll give me some pleasure because I love doing it. I'll be out there with guys I like. I'll be out there with guys in the program. Then we'll talk maybe a little program stuff, and it'll just get me away from that. And I've learned to be able to do that even when I know there's work to be done at home, because that's what happens. Like I could forget about that and not do any of that good stuff.
If you'd like to share what your next right thing is, send us an email, matt@soberfriendspod.com. I had somebody who said, I would love to be interviewed, and they took advantage of a new feature that my podcast host Buzzsprout put in, which is fan mail, where you can text something in. So this feature is garbage, and this is from an event about Buzzsprout, that they have these new features that they think are great ideas, and then they just don't do anything with them. There's no way that I can get back to this person. They can send a message to me, but I can't send a message back, which sucks. So I got my own email address. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out via email or Instagram @SoberFriendsPod. And that's really the best way. I think I need to go in there and just disable this stupid feature that they have. Like, yay, I like the show. That's all well and good. But if I can't communicate back if I want to, what's the point of it? Mm-hmm. So if you want to be part of the show, if you've got a story that you got to tell that you think is going to help the community, we would like to know that.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and reach out, Matt@soberfriendspod.com. I'm trying something different today. I am going to go upstairs after we do this, and I'm going to make sourdough bagels. Nice. I've never even dreamed of making bagels before, but they're up there. The dough is rested. They're in little balls, so I'm going to give this a try, and I'm trying to be good with. It doesn't have to be perfect this time.
Right.
I just got to get through this and see what mistakes I make.
Good luck with that, and that's the truth, right? My wife and I talk about, we'll try a recipe. They're like, oh, I don't like this. I'm like, do you think that every recipe that comes out of a commercial kitchen is hit out of the park the first time they make it? No, of course not. So if you really like something, that's pretty cool. I'm sure you'll figure it out if you want to figure it out, right? Again, if it's something that you want to do and something you have a passion for, then you'll figure it out. Good for you.
Oh gosh, I love making sourdough. It's taken me years to perfect making a sourdough starter.
Yeah.
Where it did the thing I want, and I finally have a starter now that I created, that when it gets to a certain point and I feed it, it just bubbles over like a science. If I get too much in the container, it will bubble over.
Okay.
Because it's that active now. So it works. Oh, there's nothing like, if you haven't done sourdough baking, do it. It's the best. No yeast. I didn't use any yeast for this except for what was in the air. It's cool stuff. And with that, Steve, we're going to wrap it up. Wrap it up for doing the next right thing. And everybody, we'll have a new topic next week. Bye, everyone. You made it this far into the podcast. That tells me you're a pretty big fan. If you like what we do and you find value in the podcast, consider a donation at buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. Your donation keeps us on the air to help out the new guy and helps us defray some of our costs. If you find value in our podcast, please consider a donation at buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod.